and welcome to another episode of Today's Parent, where we endeavor to connect you with experts and provide you with information to make your parenting journey a bit more easier. I'm your host, Christine Casina, and welcome to today's show. In today's episode, we are talking about homeschooling, and we have our expert in studio, Celestine Opere. She's a homeschooling consultant, and she's so passionate about homeschooling. Celestine, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Christine. I'm very happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. Let's talk about the origin of homeschooling. Where did it come from?
Homeschooling originally, especially in Africa or Kenya, was done by Christian missionaries who came from the States. And what they did is that because they were traveling all over Africa, they were never at one place for a long time.
Right.
So the only way to educate their children was through homeschooling, and they used the accelerated Christian education system because that worked for them.
Accelerated Christian system.
Yeah, Christian
ACE?
education, ACE.
ACE.
Yes.
So homeschooling is based on the ACE system.
Not all systems are based on ACE.
So there are different types of homeschooling syllabuses.
Yes, there are very different types. So there are some parents who opt for the British education system, and there are some even who opt for 844, and some of them also opt for the American system if you don't want to include religion into the program as in ACE.
Right.
Yes.
So how does homeschooling work?
Generally, homeschooling, how it works is the children learn from home. They have a space in the house where they have their classes. You can create a space in your home where they do have their classes, and then you look for other communities or other families that homeschool for your social or extracurricular activities.
So in a typical day, how does a homeschool look like?
It's the same as a normal school. The only difference is that they don't wake up to go to school. They don't have a uniform, but they have schedules. Sometimes classes start. It's up to the parent to decide what time the class starts. It could start at 8 o'clock, but it could start at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So there's always a timetable that is set that you also follow on the subjects.
Okay. So for you as a parent, how did you get to this point where you felt homeschooling compared to the other education systems is what will work for you?
For me, the homeschooling choice was a difficult choice to make because it related to the time when I returned back to Kenya from South Africa, and I had like a year with no job. So I had to kind of like decide whether my children should go to a public school or they should get quality education at home, because I had already experienced homeschooling in South Africa.
Okay. So I know when you came back, you had mentioned that you ran Homeschooling 254.
Yes.
What's your platform about?
I've got a Facebook closed group called Homeschool 254 that was created from the need that I had at that time. When I came back, homeschooling was a trend that was happening in Kenya, but you wouldn't know what space to meet people who are doing homeschooling. And if you met them, you'd find the people who are doing ACE. So you didn't have a choice. I tried joining other groups, but it was a physical joining.
Okay. So
there was nothing online. So I stumbled, got wrong advice sometimes through teachers, because I don't homeschool myself, I outsource. I got wrong teachers to come and educate my children, and I saw there was a need for people who want to homeschool to have a resource place where someone who's been there, done that on the t-shirt can come and they can leverage on the experiences, the advice, and just the journey that they've walked.
Right.
Yeah.
So for the parents who are plugged into your platform,
Yes.
in your homeschooling community, what are the different reasons that you have that are out there why parents are opting for homeschooling?
Yeah. I found that most parents really wanted to know about homeschooling, especially when the systems changed, when the 844 curriculum changed. And they introduced the CBS, the new system that's been introduced. So it was very difficult for parents to actually understand what their children were learning, number one. Number two, I think there was a limbo in terms of what are students learning in school.
Right.
So most parents now started opting to understand,
from the main
to understand what is homeschooling about. They never opted to remove, because even most parents there some of them are unlearning. So what they say is that you learned through a system. It's now a system where you unlearn what you have learned, and you relearn something new. So most parents are in that stage.
I'm just wondering if there's any reason why is there any reason why we need to unlearn, for example, our previous system, if some of us were on 844 or...
I'm an 844 product, and I know the challenges that I have faced in my career journey. I have been very theoretical, less about skills. So I never developed my skills enough to go out, to kind of like embrace them, while the current system of education is more about skills.
So you feel 844 was more about theory, cramming?
Yes.
I would say, like, for my time,
yes.
I felt there was more of cramming and reproducing, and it was about the marks,
yes,
not what I am becoming.
Yes, there was so much pressure about the marks. So
and
that
the number, the position,
yes,
that
the position that you are in class, yes, rather than what you can do. But with homeschooling, and that's what I encourage sometimes my children, is to learn a skill that they can leverage on in terms of career, and in terms of what they like doing as passion, so that they can kind of like rely on it as a career prospect.
So what you're saying is, when it comes to, say, homeschooling, you find a balance between the meat of the matter, the education,
yes.
of course,
yes.
all systems,
yes.
then focus on the education bit, but
yes.
homeschooling then focuses on the softer skills,
yes.
and building their children's character and all that.
Yes, mostly, and that's where homeschooling is kind of like different, that you have to be more involved, because you as a parent charter your child's journey by understanding this child, this is what they're passionate about, and you research and find out co-ops, which are homeschooling cooperatives within your area that offer probably a particular skill. For example, entrepreneurship is highly encouraged through homeschoolers, through cake sales or flea markets.
Right.
So basically, we have projects where homeschoolers bake something or create something that they go to sell in free markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a parent who does their 9 to 5, I'm wondering how homeschooling can work, for your regular parent with a regular job, and they have to be away from home.
Yes, it's not a very easy thing. So if you want to homeschool, you'd probably look at two alternatives: outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
Yeah, outsourcing to a teacher who would deliver the curriculum the way you want, but you'd also have to be very involved. So there is no way that you can be detached in homeschooling as a parent. You have to be very involved in what your children learn.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd face a challenge of probably even the quality of the teacher, or what the teacher is teaching the children. Are they learning?
Celestine, if you could break it down for us, how homeschooling works in more detail.
I'll break it down from my point of view, from an IGCSE point of view. Yeah. What I always advise people, especially if you want to embrace homeschooling and you want to embrace from the ECD, early childhood development stage, there is a lot of resources online where I have curated. Let's say in my Facebook group, I have curated a resource center called Units.
Right.
So in Units, I have put a lot of online resources where you can get probably curriculums for ECD, curriculum from grade 1 to grade 6,
okay,
and then the high school curriculum. And then also I have created a resource center where you can get past papers if you want to grade your children and see where are they at. So every week you can say, I'm giving you tests every Friday. So you just download the past papers, print them, and give the children to do, and then grade them through a teacher.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the different forms of, you'd mentioned a bit at the beginning, the different forms or syllabuses of homeschooling. So you say the first one is ACE.
Yes.
Then IGCSE.
Yes.
Then you can do 844.
You can do 844.
Okay.
There's Excedel. There's the American system. Yeah.
And what's the difference in all these?
ACE basically is a system that incorporates the Bible, Christian
So
versus...
ACE is more Christian
Yeah, it's more
based.
Christian based, yeah. It's very Christian based. While IGCSE, it gives your child an edge in terms of when they want to go to tertiary, they can get accepted in an American or a British university.
Right.
Yeah. While the American system, you can only get your child admitted in an American university.
Right.
Yeah. So as you're homeschooling, you'll make your decision where you want your child to be. And if you're doing 844, you know your child can get admitted into any university in Kenya.
Okay.
As long as they sit for the exams privately and pass and then present their certification.
Right.
People who do ACE, I think they have an exam set. They register their group as a school. And then they have an exam set from a body of ACE educators.
Right.
I don't know the details about that.
Right.
But there is an accreditation that they use for ACE homeschoolers,
Right.
where they get certification at the end of their learning process. And that certificate can enable them to get admissions into universities, but mostly in America. Yeah?
Right.
While if you're doing IGCSE...
So the second one is IGCSE.
Yes, when you're doing IGCSE, you get your exams done at the British Council as a private candidate, and you get your certification from the Cambridge University.
Right.
While 844, I think there's a place in South B where they do private candidates, and they register private candidates at the center where you can go in and do your exams and you get your certification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure for most parents who are watching, they are
Yeah.
then wondering, if then I'm homeschooling my child, how can I be sure that, you know, whatever system I choose, that it's properly regulated and it's, you know, accredited as you say.
You have to, and that's where the co-op comes in. So we have educators, like in my group I have educators, teachers, who come in also even for expert advice in case you're stuck between a system or you're stuck between information or
Right.
what you want to know. So there's always a lot of information and a lot of resources out there where you can always pick people's brains, and they tell you, go to this place, because there are people there who have been there, done that on the t-shirt. So they have all this experience and expertise to
Okay.
guide you to the right places.
Okay.
Yeah.
So top tips when it comes to when you want to do your due diligence, apart from having, you know, different conversations with the people within your homeschooling community, what other top tips can you share when it comes to a parent doing due diligence for them to make, you know, an informed decision?
Due diligence, it's always nice to join a group of homeschoolers. Number two, take advice from a parent who's got like a couple of kids who've homeschooled before, who've passed through homeschooling or are in university. They are the ones who are going to give you the best advice in terms of probably the challenges that they faced, where to get your resources, your immediate resources. And right now, because the internet is everywhere, you could decide to Google also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to resources, how do you access resources as a homeschooling parent? Do you have like a particular place where you need to?
I've found with learning about the internet, there's too many resources out there. Yeah, so it's just any resources that is a keyword away. So if you have the right keyword, you'll get all information that you need with
Right.
a fingertip. Yeah. And what I do is that I always, because with time I have learned why somebody is joining the group. Are they a teacher? Do they homeschool by themselves? The co-ops that we're involved with,
Right.
whose strength is what? So normally if you're asking for information, I'll just tag that person, and the person you'll sidebar, and they'll give you the best kind of information, where you'll get resources, books also. We've got parents who sell books that they've used before.
Okay.
Also, they can advise you at this stage, these are the books that you need to buy. Basically, it's relying on the community. Yeah, co-ops really work. If you're going to do it alone, it's very hard.
All right.
Yeah, you need that support of other families. Yeah.
We are going to take a short break. And when we come back from the break, in studio today we have Celestine Opere, who runs Homeschooling 254. She's going to share the pros and cons when it comes to homeschooling. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Today's Parent. On today's episode, we are talking about homeschooling, and in studio we have Celestine Opere, who's passionate about homeschooling and runs the platform Homeschooling 254. Celestine, let's go through the pros and cons for a parent who's watching. What are the advantages of homeschooling? And then we go to the disadvantages of homeschooling.
I'll start probably with the disadvantages, yeah?
Okay.
Of homeschooling, so that I have enough meat to kind of like balance it with the pros. Number one, homeschooling is not for all children, yeah? Some children miss that socialization of how when they attend school, the games that they play,
Right.
the structure that is in school. Number two...
So number one, it's not for every child.
No, it's not for every child.
So how can you tell if your child will do better, in a homeschooling setting compared to a regular school?
I have children who are very independent in thinking.
Okay.
They question everything that the teacher tells them. They kind of come out like rude, but that's how they are. They are very inquisitive, and they're inquisitive verbally. So that way, for a teacher in a school setup, they find them naughty.
Could be a disruption.
Yes, they disrupt the system because they keep on questioning what the teacher says.
Okay.
Yeah? Number two, cons of homeschooling probably is the routine part.
So
if you're not strict enough for them to wake up at a certain time, setting that routine starts with you. So you have to be the model person of saying, this is the time we wake up every day, and not slack around it, because you could also get used to like, today it's like too cold. This is a cold season, we're not waking up on time.
So a typical homeschooling routine starts from what time?
It starts from the normal time that people go to school, like 6 o'clock, children are up, because breakfast has to be made.
Okay.
By a certain time, 7 o'clock, breakfast has to be eaten. So rules have to be enforced in terms of routine and discipline.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you slack in the discipline as a parent, the child gets affected.
Okay.
Because they think that's the new normal. Yeah. And that is something that children in school have an advantage of, routine and timekeeping. Number three, what I experience, the cons of homeschooling is probably the syllabus and curriculum.
In what sense?
In terms of, if you decide a certain curriculum, how do you have to do your research yourself as a parent, or you have to do your research with the teacher if you're outsourcing to a teacher.
Right.
And also be on top of the game in terms of what is this teacher delivering to my child. So if you're not strict in or involved in what the teacher is delivering, that would also affect the child in terms of they wouldn't know so much about what they're being taught.
Okay.
Another con that I see with homeschooling probably is, I've mentioned the social side, yeah?
Yes, you have.
The competitive aspect.
Like the regular school provides a more, or...
It provides children to be competitive in terms of what the effort they put in.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's in a test, if it's in your marks, if it's in because you're many, so you want to be at least yes. But if your child is the only one in their class, they wouldn't know who they are competing against. So they kind of like become laid back and not. They think it's okay. If an exam comes and I don't feel like doing it, it's okay. I won't do it.
So how do you mitigate that as a parent?
You have to kind of like try and explain why first time keeping is very important or relevant. Number two, take a trip to a normal school, so that they understand the importance, or even if it is an exchange of them attending normal school for a week, so that they get to experience the competition that happens there. And that is where I strongly believe in probably homeschoolers visiting a school for a certain period of time and experiencing that system, and then looking back at where they are coming from, so that they get to appreciate the kind of leniency that they have in terms of, I don't do the morning school bus trips to school.
Having to wake up sometimes too early.
Exactly.
Uniform.
The uniform part. Coming back late also, there's traffic. Taking advantage of that time that they have on their as a added advantage to do something constructive.
Okay.
Probably a passion project or what they like to do.
So I'm just thinking, when it comes to homeschooling, I was wondering if I have, like, for my kids, when we do the exams, so there's no grading, there's no...
There is grading. When you get a teacher, like the teacher I outsource to gives exams every Friday, and he grades. So he grades from A to D or A to
Right.
E. Yeah, but there is no number.
So there's
But
no
there's grading.
number.
Yeah, but there's grading. There's A to D or A to E. So the child knows that they are performing nicely or they are not performing nicely. They have to
Right.
pull up their socks here, or they have to put more effort in what they didn't understand here. And because they know when their grades have not met a certain stage, they need to work more on what they need to learn. More homework is given towards where the
To
weaknesses
help them
is. Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to relearn what homeschooling is and what the future of homeschooling is, and then implement it in your homeschool.
Celestine, thank you so much. I'm sure for a parent out there who's been thinking and considering and wondering how homeschooling works, this has been very insightful. We thank you for your time and for your expertise.
Thank you very much for having me.
It was lovely hosting you.
Okay, it was my pleasure.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. We were talking about homeschooling for parents who are considering it. We have Celestine who can then guide you. She has a platform called Homeschooling 254. It's on Facebook. See how you can plug in and find all the information that you need. We've been in studio here at Little Cribs, the home of exciting, durable, and affordable kids furniture. I have been your host, Christine Kasina. If you're looking for parenting information, go to www.supermamas.co.ke. See you next time.